So on this beautiful sunny day, there are 3 pretty shocking statistics about retirement that I want to share with you, which I think should bring more sunshine and joy into your lives when you're planning for retirement. 2 of them, actually they're all interlinked really, but 2 of them are to do with kind of spending money, and one of them is to do with time. And I talk a lot about spending money and spending time in my videos, in my podcast, in my work I do with clients. So here they are, and I'm going to do some other videos on these because I think they're so shocking that they need probably expanding out on even more than what I'm gonna do now, because I'm just going to touch on them pretty briefly. So stat 1 is from a great study done by the IFS, the Institute of Fiscal Studies, and I suppose just to back this up really quickly, look, a modern day retirement, people retiring in their 50s and 60s with a pot of invested money that they're spending down, and probably these people have a slightly different or they do have a different mindset to their parents and grandparents. This modern day retirement that I talk about a lot is probably 30-40 years old. So these studies are starting to come out about spending patterns and actually real life, you know, what people are actually doing. This study suggests that over a 30-year retirement span, and they took people from age 60 to 90, over a 30-year retirement span, on average, people only spend about 70% of their starting net worth. So, sorry, they only spend 30% of their, that's the shocking bit, they only spend 30% of their starting net worth. They still have 70% left on the table. So over a 30-year time horizon of having a pot of money to spend, they only get through, on average, 30% of it. That is ridiculous. And so, I mean, I can unpack that a lot, and I will do going forward. So stat 1, on average, over a 30-year retirement, retirees still have 70% of their starting net worth left at age 90. They only spend 30%. Shocking stat number 2 is 83% of retirees have more money than they started with on death. I mean, I don't know which one's more shocking, really. I mean, they're both equally as bad. Again, let's just repeat that. 83% of people that retire end up retiring with more money than they started with. Like, what was the point of all the work that you put in over a 30-40 year period to feel like you could retire, spend the second half of life in a much better position than the first, to feel like you're, I don't know, you're handcuffed to spend only a little bit, or handcuffed and not free enough, or haven't got the plans in place to, that, you know, 83% of you will, on current trajectory, end up with more money than you started with. Ridiculous. And then to tie that all up, stat number 3 is about time. And so I think time, well, I know that all time is not created equal. So, you know, I talk a lot about, or I have talked a lot about go-go years, go slow years, and no-go years. So, you know, this first period of retirement, time and health is on our side. Time is probably more is more precious to us, because you know we end up declining over a period of time in terms of cognitive health, physical health, and our ability to do things. So again, on average, there is about 11 to 12 years of life left after health has gone. So that is the difference between what I've said is health span and time span. So our time span, or our life span, is, I don't know, getting longer. People are living longer. But actually our health span has not necessarily kept pace with lifespan. And so what's happening is people are ending up running out of health, you know, and that can be defined as anything. It doesn't mean that you're decrepit, but it means that your physical and mental abilities have declined to a level where you know, it's just really basics that you're doing. And when at that point happens, on average, there's about 11 or 12 years of life left. To me, and obviously when you get to that point, and tying it back into those two other shocking stats that I give you, when you get to that point, you're not going to be spending any money. Like, it simply just isn't going to happen, right? So that's why I think a lot of money is left on the table. That's why 83% of retirees end up with more money than they started with. That's why, on average, retirees only ever get through 30% of their money. Because what happens is that they spend far too conservatively during their health span and end up getting to a point in life where they cannot simply spend their money anymore to a degree that it isn't, that it's depleting capital. So money's going up. And I look at real life scenarios. My father-in-law, very fit, healthy guy in his mid-80s, is now back into accumulation mode. Right? I mean, he does not spend his money. He has got a couple of good pensions. He's got savings. But the money coming in from the state pensions, the money coming in from his private pensions, he is accumulating money in his bank account, because all he spends his money on is some stuff for his model boats that he does, the model boating that he does, radio control boating. And so he's in his mid-80s, and actually he's been in accumulation mode for about 10, 15 years, ever since I've really known him. So let's think about that. Let's repeat those stats. Shocking stat number one. Over a 30-year retirement, on average, retirees only spend 30% of their money. They have 70% of their starting net worth left. Shocking stat number two, 83% of retirees have more money at the end of life than when they started retirement with. And then shocking stat number three, our health span is not keeping up with our lifespan, which means our time that we are healthy enough to spend money is about the same as it was 30, 40 years ago. We may be living longer, but on average, we have about 11 to 12 years of life left after our health has gone, which means that if we're talking about a 30-year retirement, a third of our retirement is going to be in a position where our spending is minimal. Spending on stuff that is a survival thing, mindset, you know, eating type stuff. I'm going to expand on those three topics. I have done a little bit, but I'm going to expand on them a little bit more, because I think they're worth considering a lot more. I'd love to know your comments. Maybe you've observed this with your parents. I see that a lot with clients. They observe their parents back into accumulation mode in their 80s, not spending their money, having more money than they will ever need, coming up with, you know, with those issues. I hear that a lot, and it's shaping the mindset of people retiring now in their 50s. They're observing their parents, and then they're going, well, I kind of don't want that for me, and actually there's a problem coming my way because I've got some money to inherit, and where's that go, etc. So, and I know the other thing that people might say, they might say, well, what about end of life care? Don't get me started on that one. That'll be for another video on another day. But let's just leave it in a place where I go that I think that is a bogeyman that doesn't really exist, and actually is a bit of an excuse in terms of a fear of running out of money. So let's leave it at the end. There's some wonderful statistics around end of life care, in terms of wonderful in terms of how it should encourage you to not be fearful of that bit and spend money. So we'll leave that till next time. Again, leave me comments. I want to understand what you guys are seeing out there. And yeah, watch out for more videos on this soon. See you later.